Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in virtual reality world. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals for Wednesday, February the 2nd, 2022. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of the 2021, this meeting of the Somerville Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation. A recording of these proceedings can be accessed at any time using the registration link at the top of this agenda. Let the record show that we have 4 board members tonight, so we do have a quorum. We have under general business, there's nothing, and reschedule or withdrawn, there's nothing. So we're going to go right to the heart of the meeting, the public hearings. So the first one on the agenda is 636 Mystic Avenue. While you folks are coming on board, the clerk tonight subbing in is Catherine Garavaglia. Miss Clerk, would you please read the case into the file? It's brand new.
Sure. Madam Chair, do I make a motion to open it or just read it?
You just read it.
Great. This is 636 Mystic Avenue, PZ 20-025. The applicant, Michael Patterson, seeks to establish an artisanal production use in the neighborhood residence district, which requires a special permit.
Thank you very much. Is Michael, Mr. Patterson, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And Miss Charlotte, are you putting them on the screen, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I am. Michael, I have just sent you a request to share your web camera. It should highlight the button that you can click to share it. There you go.
He is.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So tell us what you're doing and what you want to do.
Sure. So we're looking to get the artisanal production special use permit relating to home brewing small batches of beer, homebrewed beer. The short version is we have a small company, a small beer company that we use our home office here to run. We kind of come up with our own beer recipes and labels, and then we contract that production out to larger facilities, larger production facilities. So in that business, we're looking to update our license we're currently licensed with the state and the federal government. We're looking to update that license, and they need to see zoning board approval, local zoning board approval for that updated license, just so everything is clear with our state and federal licenses, so they know exactly what we're doing and all of that. So the state would like to see zoning board approval, knowing that we're brewing kind of research and development test batches of recipes here. So it's something that we've been doing for over 10 years since we moved into this address. We're not looking to make any changes to the property. There's no construction associated with it. There's no noise associated with the production. There's no shipping or receiving or trucking, anything like that. There's no, associated with the business, there's no sort of customer interaction or parking that occurs here on our property. It's just a home office. There's no waste associated with the brewing. There's a small amount of waste. It's only spent brewing grain, which would fill about a halfway full of a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket. So not very much waste. And we usually try to give that to people that we know that have farm animals, chickens and stuff, because it makes really good chicken feed, and we try not to add it to the landfill. So there's really no changes that we're going to be making to the property. We just the state would like to see that the zoning board is aware of what is happening at our property. And we did do a neighborhood meeting, which Rebecca Cooper attended with our council person. We didn't have any people attend, and nobody contacted them directly with any concerns. We did have one one neighbor who emailed us just requesting more information because she couldn't make the meeting, and afterwards sent an email saying that she's excited and supports our sort of venture. And then another neighbor that emailed Councilperson Klingon directly to sort of share a similar sentiment.
Great. Okay, so let me put it out there for anybody listening in. Is there anybody out there from the public that would like to weigh in at this time in pro or con? Would you please wave your hand, let Charlotte know.
So this is Charlotte speaking. For members of the public who have not been to a public hearing before, the way that you indicate that you wish to speak is if you raise your hand, or in other words, press the little button that looks like a hand. It'll let staff know that you want to speak, and we can unmute you so that you can speak to the board. You can also type a message into the chat box, just letting us know that you want to speak, but we cannot accept public comments through that chat box. Madam Chair, I am giving it another moment, but I am not seeing anyone who has indicated in any way that they wish to speak on this project.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in the matter of 363 Mystic Ave, we'll close the public portion and now turn it over to the board for their comments or questions or whatever they have in their mind. Anybody have a question or anything? Catherine Garavaglia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I read in the report that you are not conducting any retail sales out of the residence. Where are the sales occurring?
So we have a beer distributor, or we have a couple of beer distributors that sell the beer to retail accounts on our behalf. So we sell the beer that the beer is produced in a production facility for us, and then we sell it to our beer distributor, and then the beer distributor sells it to stores and bars and restaurants.
So just for my clarification, this is just you testing like a different recipe, and then when it's ready, you send it over for production elsewhere.
Yeah, just small 2 gallon. It's 2 to 5 gallon. 5 gallon is the largest that we do here. So usually it's smaller 2 gallon batches, just to try it out, to test it, and then it's produced at a much larger facility once we have the recipe sort of designed.
Understood. Madam Chair, I think I have a question for planning or Charlotte.
Please do.
If we allow this, is there a limitation on the amount of production that it can occur on the location, or is that a restriction that we would have to put in place? Charlotte?
This is Charlotte speaking. So I don't believe the zoning ordinance would have any limitation on production. It would have limitations on, for example, the amount of customer interaction that can happen on site. But if the board wanted to impose a condition in the vein of if any activities other than, for example, on-site research and development were to occur, that would require a revision to the special permit, and you could specifically name activities like on-site production beyond 15 gallons, some larger number than what they're doing so that they have wiggle room, but still well below what a commercial facility would be.
So I guess I have one more question for the applicant about how many test batches do you typically do?
At this point, it's not all that many. It would be one a month would be sort of the maximum that we would do.
And
How many was that? I'm sorry, got beeped out.
Once per month at the absolute most. It's probably more realistically going to be 4 to 5 times a year.
okay, and you said one batch is about a 5 gallon?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the largest that it would be.
So like 15 gallons sounds like a reasonable 15 gallons per month or something would give.
Yes, that would be plenty.
Okay.
And I know there is, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know there is a limit to the amount that you can homebrew on a private property that's put in place by the state. I think it's either state or federal. I'm not sure what it is, but I know there is a limit. I'm just not sure what it is off the top of my head.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, this is Rebecca speaking, if I may provide an extra.
Yes, please, Rebecca.
Rebecca Cooper, Senior Planner with OSPCD Planning, Preservation and Zoning. I do want to follow up with Mr. Patterson's note that the state does, the Alcoholic Beverages Commission at the state regulates those production increases. So it is covered by another ordinance or another body of law. If Mr. Patterson sought to change the use significantly, to one which would require retail sales on the site, one which would require customers on the site, that would actually be a different use.
Okay.
So the artisanal production use would not allow a significant increase, although I do want to highlight Charlotte's point that at the board's discretion with the applicant, we can condition anything that you find might be onerous.
Okay, thank you very much. Catherine, anything else?
Madam Chair, I would recommend that we come up with what we think is a reasonable limit if we were to approve, but also include that it cannot be more than what is allowed under the state and federal rules, and those should govern if our number is wrong.
Right, I agree. I agree. Okay.
Madam
so
Chair.
I made a note of, yes, Charlotte.
This is Charlotte speaking. Just for when we're writing the decision, could I suggest a condition along the lines of, with the exact wording to be figured out later, the applicant may have no more than 15 gallons. It's gallons, correct, Michael?
Yes.
Like you do 5 gallons? Okay. No more than 15 gallons of beer production at any one time, or the maximum set by the state, whichever is lower. So something along those lines
Yep.
with the exact wording to be figured out later.
That sounds perfect to me. Okay,
Great. We'll make a note. Great.
all right. Are you all set with that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry for this in the background. No one's here. Does Ian or Ian have any comment or question? No. Okay, I did. I had a comment on the hours of operation. I think it's great when the neighborhood, you've been doing it, you haven't offended anybody. We didn't get any letters here. I think there was one. Let me see, no changes, that was that. That was the meeting, that's that. On the hours of operation, I think, why do you need to be operating from 7 in the morning? I'm trying to find my spot here. I think, did you say, yes, all right, 7 a.m. to, on page like 3 of the report here. These are special permit conditions. Number 5, visitors, retail sales between 7 and 9. There's no resales at the location, no visitors, da-da-da-da-da. So here's my question. That could change at any time, maybe, and you come forward, or things will be going on in the neighborhood. Why do we have to have so early and so late?
So is it,
Can we do a 9 to 5 thing?
Madam Chair, this is Rebecca speaking again, if I might.
Please.
The item number 5 that you just read out is actually one of the required considerations that it needs to be made for this use. That is not a time that was proposed by the applicant. That is the text of that standard as it is laid out in the code.
And can we change it
Yes, Madam Chair.
for
you
this? Can we make we can make it a special condition?
Yes, Madam Chair, you could add that condition.
Okay. I only say that because I'm in the city too, and I'm on a busy street. And it just seems that things are starting earlier every day and later at night. And I'm trying to preserve a little bit of neighborhood residential quality. So if everybody thinks it's at least fair, I go with the 9 to 5 business, in case you say to any of your customers or something changes, hey guys, come 9 to 5. I don't want you waking up the neighbor, even getting in the car, they're banging the doors, they're carrying a package. It's disturbing. So if that's okay with the applicant, I mean, everything seems wonderful and in order. And I don't mean to be an aggravator, so all the questions I had are already answered. But would you consider that, Mr. Patterson?
Is that just, well, is that for the customers? We won't have any customers anyway, so customers coming to the address, they won't be there, so that won't really affect it. You can make it anytime that you want.
Yeah, I'm not saying people come to your house, your company and all that stuff,
Yeah.
That's like my house 24 hours.
No.
But I'm just saying, we're talking strictly business. All of a sudden things change tomorrow, and all of a sudden you've got people coming that you didn't plan on, things
Mhm.
fell apart down the road. Your Domino's, who you make it, you ship it, they get it, they distribute it. And all of a sudden something happens, and then they're coming to the house at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and people have babies and stuff like that. So if you guys don't think I'm being unreasonable and it's clear enough, I don't want to complicate your personal life, then I'd like to see the hours adjusted a little bit.
We can work around
Anybody? Yeah,
whatever you think is good. We can work around that without any issues.
all right. Okay, thank you. So I don't see anybody's hands going up, so I'm gonna close. Oh, yes, Ian Fullerton, please.
Just a
Hi, Ian.
comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment on that. I think that the
Yeah.
response from the is that there are no retail sales, so they don't need retail hours. So, I mean, it could be that that basically the condition is no retail hours, and that then
Right.
means they still don't have any sort of strange hours that are associated with their residents, like 9 to 5 somehow associated with their residents. I mean, we could just simply qualify it as no retail hours. Does that
What
seem
does everybody
reasonable?
think? So instead, so you're saying on number 5, instead of, it says here, the limitation of visitors, what are we gonna write there?
Well, so what it states there, the limitation of visitors is a question that's set forth by the zoning code, and Mr. Patterson's response is that there are no retail hours. There's no retail sales proposed at this location, no visitors expected beyond those associated with the property's residential use. So, I mean, we could put in a condition for clarity if you want that there are no retail hours. That way there's no strange hour condition attached to their home.
Right. Does that, Rebecca, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Rebecca speaking.
What about our proposal on that? Does that go along with when these new bylaws were made and rules? Does that fall in place?
Madam Chair, Ms. Fullerton's point is, I think, a very good one. The board is required to make a finding regarding the hours. Mr. Patterson has indicated multiple times to me before this and has restated this evening that he doesn't intend to have those. So the board can make the finding as part of their approval that there is no retail activity at this location. And I would note that retail sales use in the neighborhood residence district would also require a permit. So changing to increase the activity on the site would require coming back to this board.
Okay. So in the back there, Miss Charlotte, could you please make a note of this and try and pull something for us again, or even after the fact, that now that's 2 items, 2 conditions that would like to follow this case?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking. We can add a condition along the lines of no on-site retail sales are permitted.
Great. Beautiful. Other than that, I have nothing further. Ian, Ian Brockelman, do you have any more comments? No. Ian Fullerton, you all set? And Catherine, you're all set? Okay. So for this permit, I want to make sure that the board that the board have any concerns at all and they agree with the findings of the staff report. That's a yes from everybody. Also, the staff recommendations, we have the 2 conditions we're going to add. And then 3, is there any additional questions, conditions the board members would like other than those 2 items? Everybody looks fine with that. Mr. Patterson, are you happy with everything we're saying? Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, thank you.
Okay, beautiful. I had one unofficial comment with the seeds left over. Now, these chickens, they're not getting inebriated or anything, are they?
No, no, no.
Isn't it great that you can recycle them like that? That's awesome. That's
No,
awesome.
It's before the alcohol actually enters the picture. So,
Oh,
yeah.
shucks. Okay, all right.
I mean, I guess they would ferment, and if you
Sure.
let them sit out long enough, then you could have some drunk chickens running around. But
Yeah, that's funny. When I was younger, we used to have little chicks too. I loved it. I miss it. So that's fun. I'm glad they do that. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to ask my ever ready clerk tonight to make a motion to approve as presented. And this one's a pretty straightforward one, Catherine. Do you think you can wing it? Go ahead. Let's go.
We're going to see what happens.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the applicant's request to establish an artisanal production use in the neighborhood residence district and approve the special permit with the conditions as outlined in the staff report and with the 2 conditions related to the quantities and no retail sales as previously discussed.
Great, and that's 636 Mystic Avenue, P&Z 20-025. May I please have a second on the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ann Brockelman. And all in favor, I'll go around, please say aye. Ann Fullerton,
Aye.
Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
and Susan Fontano, aye. Let the record show it was unanimous, 4 voting members, and let the record show also that Catherine is filling in for Josh Safdie on all cases this evening. Congratulations, Mr. Patterson, and continued good luck.
thank you. Thanks for your
Okay,
time.
take care. All righty, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I need from everybody just 1-2 minutes break before we take the next case. So let the record show the next case is going to be 21 Eastman Road. Thank you. Okay. I'm back. Sorry about that. Waiting for Ann. There she is. Sorry, ladies. I apologize. And that's that. And we're waiting for Charlotte and Rebecca.
Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking. I am here and I have promoted Adam Dash. And Adam, once we reopen the case, if you can let me know who else on your team should be promoted or unmuted or be able to share their screen, please do.
Sure thing.
Hi, Adam.
Hello, Madam Chair. How are you?
Good, good. So, let's, are we back? Call it back in order. Charlotte?
Yes, Madam Chair, if you call it back, we can open or continue with 21 Eastman from the previous hearing.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you call us back in order? I don't know if we ever did that, if we just broke away. Let the record show that this is Zoning Board of Appeals, February 2nd, 2022. We're back from a little mini recess at 6:31 p.m. And the next case on the agenda is Mr. Dash, and let me get my papers in front of me. Da-da-da-da. That's done. 21 Eastman Road. Mr. Dash, welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Good
We
evening.
don't have to open anything, do anything for the clerk, because we're all ready to rock and roll here.
That is
So-
it.
Okay. I gotta
So-
tell you, Mr. Dash, I was very unhappy with your late email today.
Well, actually, the reason why we sent that stuff over is so you'd have it in front of you. We're walking through it. I didn't expect you to read it. I just, for the record, wanted you to have it.
I know, but you know what happens with us little people at home that don't have big law offices, or architects, or designers, or planners? I can't run off 40 copies of new or whatever plans. So I ran off the report from your gentleman there. I'm trying to dig it out here. And the rest is in limbo land, because I only have one little screen here, one little computer.
There's only one
You
minor
guys
change
should
to
think
that.
of
There's
I
only
know,
one minor
you know,
change to that, so.
You know what? I know that, but you can't do these things. And we're gonna, this coming year, I'm not beating up on you, honest to God, I have most highest respect for you. We're not gonna do it. We get these late, we'll just continue the case, so we'll have time to read it and appreciate it. I'm sure you spent a lot of money to have the individual do that for you. And I would think you'd want us to read it and really appreciate it. And who was it? It was Chris, that Kirby we've been dealing with. So I haven't had a chance to really look at it and all the plans so that you sent over. And I don't know about the rest of my team here, but in the future, we'd really appreciate some consideration to the office. If you can't do it Thursday, let her know about it Friday. Maybe we could have had it by Monday. That would be nice. So thank you.
Yeah, understood, Madam Chair. I would just note for the record for two things. It's Adam Dash, 48 Grove Street, Somerville, first of all, representing the applicant. Second of all would be that as far as the structural engineer responding to the abutters engineer's report, we did not get the abutters engineer's report till I want to say Monday. So I think we could have done nothing, or we could have sent you something late. Those were my two choices. I figured
Okay.
better to send you something than nothing. The other one was getting the staff report on the 28th. Which talked about ways to get rid of maybe one or more of these variances. We actually found a way to get rid of one more of them, the upper
Mhm.
story fenestration. And I felt that
Right.
since last time you had instructed us to sort of assemble a plan with all of it in one plan. So if you wanted to vote, you'd
Yeah.
have something to vote on. That it would be better if we added that one minor change on that one set of plans, so you'd have a full set in front of you. I wasn't expecting you to necessarily read it, but for the record, that's all we did. The alternative would have been to send nothing, which it didn't seem to me the better way to go. But at any rate,
Right.
no intent to offend. We're just trying
That's
to
why
help.
I like to discuss this. Yeah, and that's why I like to discuss it, because then you clear it up for me and I have appreciation for you and vice versa,
No,
to
understood.
talk about something I think is a great thing. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
No
Okay.
problem whatsoever. For Charlotte, if you could unmute Adam Siegel, Michael Burns, maybe with him or maybe separate, Peter Quinn, Milton Yu from Peter Quinn's office, Chris Kirby, who is the structural engineer, whose report we were just discussing, and Peter Gammy. And then I just want to basically just walk through, I think, 5 things that have changed since the last time. And then we, for the most part, you really didn't ask us to do much otherwise from the last meeting to this, I think. So good to see you all. And so we were last here on January 19th, and this is our 5th. Hopefully it'll be our final meeting with you. But at the January meeting, the board asked us to file a full integrated plan set and asked the staff to provide a detailed updated staff report, and both of those things were done. As for the updated staff report, I wanted to point out 2 typos in the staff report, and we have people here to explain this, but briefly, one, we're not constructing a 12-foot to 20-foot retaining wall. I think the staff report says that, and that's just a typo. And 2, we are not importing large amounts of fill, as the staff report says, as the site is roughly balanced per our civil engineer. Peter Gammy, if you want to, he could address the second point, I think, is if you like. But those 2 things are not correct. I just want to make sure if you do issue a decision that those don't get repeated into the decision.
Where were they exactly? What's the one on the stuff coming in?
Okay, hold on a second.
All right, we'll do the height. Do the height first.
Okay. There was a
Number-
part about the,
What page are we on, Adam?
that's right, I'm sorry, I'm pulling that. It has to do with the site plan special permit. I believe it is page, oh, they're not numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It says the natural second paragraph, though there are some older and smaller retaining walls on site, the natural topography of the site will not be maintained due to the construction of retaining walls ranging from 12 feet to 20 feet in height. On page 6, Peter Quinn can address that if you had any questions about that. And let's see. Peter Gammy, where do you have the Peter? Do you have the Peter Gammy? Do you have the fill section in front of you? I'm sorry, it's the next paragraph. I found it. That the site will
The
further.
geotechnical.
Yeah, on this page 6, the next paragraph says the site will further be disturbed through significant grading and by bringing in large amounts of fill in order to create conditions necessary, et cetera. We're not bringing in large amounts of fill. So just wanted to, they're minor points, they're not conditions. I just want to make sure, because often these staff report, the language gets parroted into the final decision, whatever that may
Sure.
be. I just don't want that parroted over because it's not correct. That's all.
No, I wouldn't expect you to.
They're
That's
just
what I'm
typos.
talking about. We got to speak up, and, transparency and open comments makes us all perform better. That's great.
Yeah, no, I just want to
Okay.
point that out. Like I said, I don't know if you want me to go into it, if it's important or not, because but those are 2 of the 5 things. There are 2 additional things about the staff had raised 2 issues we wanted to address regarding removing several, 2 of the variances that we were seeking. And
Yes.
I can actually show my screen on one of them. One of them we've touched on a moment ago. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, you see V13, the upper story fenestration, then goes away. And Peter Quinn, do you want to, and this is the page V13 that calls it out. This is one of the documents that I sent over today, and all we did was change this one page to show it. And then we sent the whole plan set, again, just showing this one little change. So you have everything in one packet. Peter, do you have? Peter Quinn?
Good evening, Peter Quinn. Peter Quinn Architects, 259 Elm Street. So what you're seeing in front of you here is just the last revision that we did on our explanation of variances. There was an interpretation about the fenestration requirement and how, we have a frontage that turns a right angle, which is out at Eastman. And so we were just misunderstanding how to apply the fenestration requirement. And so we've added windows to comply with that. So that variance is now off the table.
So that's a positive development.
Yeah.
So
It
that's
was really
one.
just a misunderstanding on our part, and we're grateful to the planning staff for sort of being able to see that in this weird 3D situation. Yeah.
Right. And so rather than just sort of conceptually say we will deal with this, we wanted to actually show you what we're talking about for tonight. That's why we filed this late.
Yeah.
Thought it would be helpful. So the second one has to do, I stopped my screen sharing, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. The second one has to do with the parking. The staff was recommending or stating that we could get rid of a variance by putting the parking that's in the garages, the 2 parking spaces outdoors, and then using the garages as habitable living space, and thereby complying with the habitable space depth variance. If you may recall that one of the comments from one of the neighbors last time was that they actually wanted the cars indoors, not outside. So that's why we had done that. So we're really not keen on it. Secondly, and like Peter can again address this, it's our belief that even if we did that, we will still not comply with habitable space depth anyway. And Peter.
Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking.
Hi, Charlotte.
If I may interject on this one point, it has been, ISD has, unprompted of any applicant, issued at this point an informal, but we expect it to shortly be formal and posted on the city's website. They have issued an interpretation of the section that reads, ground story dwelling units must have habitable space at least 20 feet in depth, measured as the distance from the facade towards the interior of the building, which is the section, one of the sections that this project requires a hardship variance from. Earlier this afternoon, I was talking to my colleagues in ISD and received a draft interpretation from them that we expect to be made official very shortly, that I just wanted to bring up because I want to make sure that the board has full information. I'm going to just read from it, and then if you have any questions, let me know. So, and I quote, in communication with the planning staff who drafted the language referencing the ground story dwelling units, it is ISD's understanding that the intent of this section is to prevent instances of attached ground floor garages in the front facade portion of a residential building. ISD finds the language of this section does not reflect this intent and deems this section to be unenforceable. ISD recommends amending the language of the ordinance to more accurately represent its intent. So I just wanted to provide that because it is not, with that interpretation, once it becomes final, it is not clear to staff whether a hardship variance for habitable space is required. That said, this interpretation is not fully final official. And as the applicant has already requested and made an argument for the hardship variance, if the board finds that it is able to make all 3 required findings for that hardship variance, staff would recommend that it be granted whether or not it is required, as this interpretation is not fully final, i.e. it's not official, it's going to be, but it is not at this point. And granting the hardship variance would prevent future changes to the ordinance regarding this section from requiring the applicant to come back for any additional hardship variances.
Okay, that's
If the board
interesting.
has any questions, let me know.
Adam?
Sorry, Madam Chair, Adam Dash again. Yeah, it's interesting, but nevertheless, the code is what the code is as of today. I kind of wish that it had been changed before we applied, but that's not what happened. So we have to go under this. A, the neighbors, I don't think want us to make the change, and B, according to Peter, and he can speak about this, I don't think it undoes the need for the variance anyway, because, well, I guess it depends on how that interpretation goes. But again, that's not the law today, so we're dealing with the law today. And so we would rather, seek the variance, if that's all right with you. So
Right.
that's the fourth thing I wanted to raise. And again, the team is here to describe any details you may want. The fifth point has got to do with the retaining wall engineer's report that David Lyons sent for his clients who own the property at 19 Eastman Road regarding the wall, which he'd stated at the last hearing he would provide. We got it and quickly turned around a response. At least you have that in writing. I wouldn't say it's a response as much as it's almost like an agreement in some respects, but I think Chris Kirby should walk you through that because I know you got it late and I wasn't expecting you to read it, but I just wanted you to have it in front of you. Chris?
Thank you. Hi, Chris.
Chris is the structural engineer. And also, Charlotte, could you promote Blair Hines? I'm sorry, I'd forgotten to mention him.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is Chris Kirby. Good evening. So I responded to the report received from the neighbor's engineer, and we're basically in agreement with what they request. There are basically three main things that they're looking for. Is number one, keeping a one-to-one slope in front of the wall, which we totally intend to do. There was a second one, which was concern about making sure there's 4 feet of frost cover on the wall. In the final condition, this is 100% of, hold on. Sorry, I was looking at my screen for a second there. Hi, this is me. We totally intend to provide 4 foot of cover on top of the footing for frost protection, but that's in the final condition. As we're excavating, it's impossible to keep 4 feet of cover over that wall. We don't know when the project will be kicked off or excavated. So, in the summer months or spring and fall, we have no worry of frost. And if it's done in the winter, we'll protect the footing with frost blankets and or insulation, whatever is required. Let's see, what else did I have in here? We totally intend to, do a pre-construction survey of the wall, pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction. So we monitor everything that's going on. That is actually the best way to protect everyone, as well as us, as well as the neighbor, so we can make sure that the wall is not moving during construction. And we can provide a copy of the surveys as requested in the neighbor's engineer's report. On page 2, it's the stability of that existing large tree. We plan on using airspace to excavate that soil around the tree to preserve the roots as well as the tree. I think that's the best way to protect that, the tree and keep it living. And again, monitoring is the best way to, protect the tree. We watch it and we make sure that it stays healthy and do all we can to keep that true. And the third thing is the existing retaining wall located on our property right now. We're in the building property. We're going to cut that wall out and tie that into the new retaining wall. So basically, on my report, pages 1 and 2 are the meat of the whole letter. Everything else beyond are basically exhibits to look at. There's a wall analysis as well as some diagrams of the existing wall that is there.
Great. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kirby? Everybody understands what he said. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Adam right here on Mr. Kirby right now while they're in front of us? Everybody's absorbing everything? Okay, so we can go to, I think we closed the public portion last week. Didn't we, Charlotte? And I don't think there's anything really here that the public would have any privy to, because the people that were concerned, I'm sure Mr. Kirby and his staff and Adam got in touch with all the people all week long, right?
I would know, yes, Madam Chair, I gave the documents I filed late with you. I also provided to Attorney Lyons.
Beautiful, thank you. Charlotte?
Yes, Madam Chair. If my memory serves correctly, I believe we closed it, but if you give me one moment, I can check. Yes, I checked my notes from last week, and we did close public comment at the last hearing
I thought as well.
On January 19th.
Yeah, I thought as well, but I like to check myself here. Okay, so with the public portion closed, I'm going to open it up here to the board again tonight and to see what comments that you might have regarding the new staff report, the information that came in from Mr. Dash's crew, and to see if you have any comments. So number one, before I get very formal, anybody have anything off the cuff you want to ask Mr. Kirby, Mr. Quinn, or Mr. Dash? Anything right now? Yes, Catherine, please do.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for Attorney Dash or for Charlotte. I've just been trying to track as we've gone through things. Are we still looking for a steep slope permit, or is that, okay?
Yeah, steep slope special permit. Yeah, we've gotten that kind of lost in all the variances, but yes, the steep slope special permit still exists.
Great, and that is on my list.
Thank
Thank
you. Very good. Okay, steep slope. Anybody else have a handout? No? What about a hand up? No, okay. All right, so let's see. Now this is for, we want to make sure we get this right. And Rebecca Cooper is in the background tonight and Charlotte's in the background tonight. So I want you ladies to know we are not offended if you jump in any way and keep us honest and legal, okay? As we go forward. So number one, we're gonna, regarding the steep slope special permit, I want to make sure the board has any concerns about the required considerations and agree with the findings of the staff report. Anybody not, raise your hand. Then I'm going to ask you all if the board wishes to apply the staff recommendation permits and conditions. Well, yes, whatever's in said report, we want to adopt everything, explanation or any conditions that were made, I'm sure. And thirdly, is there any additional conditions from the board? I didn't think we had any. No, okay. So this is the matter of the, Madam Clerk, the first one we're going to cover is the conditional approval of the steep sleep special permit. So could you please make a motion to that, and then we'll cover the other stuff after.
Yes, Madam Chair. I make a motion to approve the steep slope special permit for 21 Eastman Road, PZ 2021-121.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Second on the motion by Ann Brockelman. All in favor, please say aye as I go around. Ann Fullerton,
Aye.
Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
and Susan Fontano, aye. Let the record show that in the matter of the steep slope special permit on 21 Eastman Road, it was unanimous 4 votes. Thank you. Now, on the hardship variance, we have, again, before I go with the formal 4 little questions here and we touch on, now, can I ask Rebecca, probably in Charlotte, normally on each variance, we cover the 3 criteria. Do we have to cover the out loud, the criteria for all of these, or can I ask if we have a blanket approval of each one and read those individually?
This is Charlotte speaking. So there are 2 ways that the board could go, 2 ways that I can think of off the top of my head about how the board could go about doing this. The first one would be to identify each of the requested variances and have a brief discussion about how each one satisfies each of the 3 required findings. After discussing each variance, you could then make one motion saying, based on the discussion we just had, we vote to adopt all or some subsection of the variances. And then you don't need to discuss each variance individually, or you don't need to make a motion for each variance individually. Another way to do it would be to discuss variance number 1 and then make a motion about variance number 1, discuss variance number 2, make a motion about variance number 2, and do each one separately. Just in the interest of making fewer motions, I would recommend that the board discuss each variance separately and then make one motion for all of the variances that the board wishes to approve. And we can help with the language on that.
Okay. So the answer to my question was no. All right. Are we here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? That's gone, and 7. So we have 7 variances remaining.
Madam Chair, I believe it's 8.
You believe it's 8. Okay, 1 second. Ann's got her hand. Ann Brockelman, hand up.
I wonder if either the applicant or staff could also show the slide of each variance. It was very clearly illustrated at the last meeting as we discuss each one. Is that okay?
That sounds like a good one.
I'm
Good
happy to
recommendation.
do, I'm happy to do so.
Adam has that. Yes,
Can you see my screen?
yes.
Yeah.
There you
See
go.
something now.
This is the updated where we've crossed off upper story fenestration. This is the list.
4, 5. All right, wait a
Actually,
minute.
no, well, actually, if you take a look at Sarah White's or the Plain Stuff's January 28th memo, that might be better to go off of.
That's what I'm looking at, and I'm on
Yeah.
the front page.
I would do that. Yeah.
All right, 2. Did you say 8 because habitable space is 2?
Habitable spaces too.
So there's the 8, right? I missed. Okay,
There's
good.
there's one for each of the units.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I
It's the
think
same
we
thing.
should, yeah. I think we should go down, discuss them, and then make the one motion. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. So, on the hardship variances, first of all, we have dwelling units not stacked vertically. Now, what I want to know is, do you believe that each criteria has been satisfied? And let me see something here. I want to make sure I've got it specifically in front of me here, so we can go through it nice. I want to know, it's in the body here. Can somebody help me? When
Madam
we're
Chair,
this,
if I may suggest that, Adam, I'm gonna make myself the presenter
Okay.
so that I can do this. You don't need to do anything for that. So can everyone see my screen with the
Yes.
staff memo? Okay,
Yep.
great. I have on a separate screen a list of the hardship variances, and if the board is willing, what I suggest we do is I can identify each hardship variance and leave the required findings on the screen. And after I identify the required hardship variance, the board can briefly discuss how each of these 3 findings are met for that hardship variance. But that way, the board doesn't have to have multiple pieces of paper in front of them going back and forth.
that's what I'd like to help with that.
Charlotte,
Thank you.
I think that's fine. I also have them, if that's helpful.
Good.
If you wanna identify each variance, that is also perfectly acceptable, whichever way is easier.
So first of all, we want to make sure if the criteria has been satisfied. The facts in the case leading to the conclusion, and then we go over the special circumstances relating to the soil, the shape, the photography, all that. 1, 2, and 3. I'll read. Do we have to read these or are they on the screen? That's good enough?
Yeah, they're on the screen. So this is Charlotte speaking for the record. So for example, for the first variance, dwelling units not stacked vertically, if the
Right.
board could discuss how each of these findings is or isn't satisfied for that variance.
I feel they're satisfied.
Madam Chair, if
Catherine?
is it helpful if we just walk through points 1, 2, and 3 out loud for each
Right.
one? Okay. So this lot is uniquely shaped. The topography is extremely steep, which is something we addressed with our steep slope permit, and that is unusual throughout the town of Somerville. Literal enforcement of this would provide a significant financial hardship to the applicant with them trying to build another type of structure into the property. And also it would end up being much taller than the plans that they've given us if they were to try to make it economically viable, but sticking with the code explicitly, which I think would be a detriment to the public good.
Thank you. Everybody agree on that? Yes, Ann Fullerton?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that per point 3, that my concern is that if the property were built taller, it would create more shadow on neighbors, which would be a detriment to the public.
Great. Very good point. Thank you very much. All right, so that's the number 1, dwelling units not stacked vertically, building type. That's number 1. Anybody else? That's fine. Okay. Number 2, number of stories. Okay, Catherine, please, if you've got it down, yes.
Oh,
And we can chime in, and we'll chime in.
are we just running through why it's a hardship?
Well, we feel why we should consider it not to be a hardship. We want to approve it. So as
Okay.
we go through the 1, 2, 3, if anybody else wants to add in like Ian just did, we can do so. If not, what you come up with, we'll see what you say.
Great. So we're talking about the number of stories for the unit. Again, the topography and shape of the land here provides that in order to build the property into the hill, it requires more stories than what we would typically expect to see. If it was built and leveled out, there would have to be a lot of fill and retaining walls, which would be a financial and substantial hardship and a detriment to the neighborhood.
Perfect. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Anybody have any other comments to add? Yes, Ann Brockelman?
I would say both this variance and the previous one is a result of the applicant considering what the board's asked. And perhaps, again, it's the case previously to move the building down with the topography.
Right.
And not go straight out 2 stories. So because it's steep, the building had to then keep stepping down. So it was actually as a result of consideration for the board suggesting that the project be redesigned in that way for the betterment of the neighborhood.
Thank you for bringing that out, Ann. Thank you, Catherine. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3, the story height.
Yes, so this was a request for the story height to be taller than typically allowed to allow for the construction of the stairwell in both units. This is related to, as Ann Brockelman just stated, building into the hill at the request of the board to help keep the overall height down. I think a literal enforcement of the ordinance would be a substantial financial hardship, the special circumstances being the topography of the land. And because we're building it down, this is better for the neighborhood and is not a detriment because it helps reduce shadows.
Great. Anybody else have a comment? No? Okay. Moving down to number 4, building width. Building width, and again, this is on number 1.
Okay. So I think as part of our continued conversation about the topography and shape of the land, in order to mitigate any shadows or adverse effects on the neighbors, and at the request of the board, the applicant considered building 2 units side by side into the hill. Again, the literal enforcement would be a substantial hardship financial or otherwise to the petitioner, and it would cause, allowing the side-by-side units does not cause a substantial detriment to the public.
Great. Anybody else want to add anything? I'll just add in that I remember when we were doing all this, that we said we went wider instead of taller. The applicant, and they were trying to worry, they were worried about the, as Catherine said, the shadow studies, as well as just visibility for people around them and behind them. So thank you for that. The next one is the ground story elevation.
Yes, Madam Chair, this request for a variance was to allow for a lower entryway and to keep the building entrance lower for both units. This again is related to building the units into the topography at the board's request. I think a literal enforcement of that would create problems in terms of the steps into the building, and there's no substantial detriment to the public in allowing for this variance.
Anybody have anything they want to add to this? No? Good job, Catherine. Thank you. Next is, we're jumping down now to parking within the parking setback.
Yes, this was a request for parking in the 20-foot minimum primary front parking setback in the frontage area, and it requires relief because the parking space for unit 1 is in the garage, which is in that setback area. As the building has been built into the hill, as we've already discussed, and as the neighbors have requested that the cars be parked in garage units, this was a way to accomplish this. The frontage setback does not actually abut the street, just to the nature of where the primary access roadway is located. Literal enforcement of this would force the cars to be parked outside with minimal room for turning around. So this is a logical solution to that, and I don't believe it will cause any substantial detriment to the public.
Great, thank you. And I do remember we had a lot of conversation on that in diagrams because of the funny little awkward corner it is and the shape it is. So thank you for bringing that forward. And the last item, it's for 2 variances. It's the habitable space depth. And in light of what was just, we were brought up to date on, the applicant has chosen to go forward and have us vote on this as well. So Catherine, could you please cover that?
Sure, and I may welcome assistance on this one. So this would be a request for hardship variance for habitable space depth, and it requires relief because the design places the main living story below grade for units 1 and 2. Again, because of the topography of the parcel being so steep, and at the board's request to build into the slope to minimize the height, this necessitates the living area being below grade that we would typically expect to see. And I think that this does not cause a detriment to the public here because it actually is minimizing impacts on them by pursuing this design.
Great, thank you. Does anybody, Ann or Ann, have a comment on this? No? Yes, please go.
Sure.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
again, it's again the case for many of the variances in that many of the architectural strategy is flip-flopped, right? You enter not the main living, then you descend down to main living, so that caused a variance. You're putting units side by side instead of one on top of the other. Again, it's everything's just kind of the opposite, but we feel like these variances actually improve the design and the impact of the project on the neighborhood.
Great, thank you. I second that. Ann Fullerton, you all set?
Yeah, I think that the proponents have been very responsive to the recommendations. I appreciate, although late, that they resolved the fenestration variance prior to this meeting. I actually disagree with the planning comment about there being enough room for 2 side-by-side cars and turnaround space. I think that it would be 2 tight side-by-side spaces. A standard space is 12 feet wide. There's 20 feet there. So I think that the proposal has been mulled over very thoroughly and is a good resolution for a tough location.
Thank you very much. My final comment is that variances are real serious business, and the percentage of approvals is low, and it should be. Our staff over the last few years have taken a lot of time to rewrite a lot of the zoning and bring it into the 21st century. The city itself had summer vision and a lot of meetings from the public on what they wanted for their city. And so when we go forward, we're hoping that our people, our city councilors, our planning staff, our zoning people, all did a lot of hard work and knowledge and put it into our bylaws and stuff and guidelines that we're working with. So although this is like heavy duty stuff that we came through tonight, it's a very awkward piece of land. And we've gone through change. And I think at the end of the day, when you negotiate and y'all have a meeting of the minds, this is going to be a nice package for everybody in the neighborhood. I'm looking forward to the landscaping around it, especially to camouflage, you know, some of the size of the building, height of the building, or what have you design. And I thank the planning board and the staff for all their real hard work and coming forward. I thank Catherine tonight for a wonderful clerking on this. It was very difficult. And thank you to Rebecca and Charlotte for backing us up. And to the applicants, Adam and Chris and Peter, they're all reputable people, and I'm happy to have worked with you on this. Thank you for trying to make it happen. So,
Thank you.
without further ado, motion's been made. No other comments, I understand, will be heard. So we're going to ask for a second on the, is this it? Is this what I'm saying now? So
Madam
all
Chair.
the, no, I know, we got to make the motion. Yes. Who's speaking? Charlotte?
Madam Chair, I think I was going to say the same thing that Katie was saying. Once we make the motion,
Right.
we need to make the motion. But luckily, this motion is very easy because you can just make a motion to, assuming you're going to approve them, approve all of the requested hardship variances
Right.
in accordance with the findings made during this meeting. And then you can just reference them all as a whole because you've already enumerated each of the findings for each of the variants, so that finding can be, or sorry, the motion can be a lot simpler.
Great, thank you. So now we need a motion from the clerk.
Sure. Madam Chair, following the public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined in the Somerville zoning ordinance, in the matter of 21 Eastman Road, PZ 2021-121, in consideration of our comments and findings as previously discussed, I make a motion to approve each and every one of the variances that we just discussed.
Great. Do we need to list them once?
Madam Chair, this is Charlotte speaking. I think Katie's motion, by referencing the findings that, or by referencing the hardship variances that we just discussed, that will accurately capture for the public record the intent of the motion.
Thank you. May I please have a second on the motion from the clerk?
Second.
Ann Brockelman, second. All in favor as we go around, please. Yay for the yes. Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Ann, and I nay for the no. Ann Fullerton,
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
and Susan Fontano, aye. let the record show that all 4 members voted in the affirmative for the variances presented tonight, and that again, Catherine Garavaglia was filling in for Josh Safdie. Congratulations to the team of 21 Eastman Road.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Adam Dash. Thank you to the chair, to members of the board for your consideration over the several years we've been doing this. It's nice to have it done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Are there any other business before us tonight? No? I really mean it. Yes, Ian.
Just want to thank the staff. I know we asked for you to rewrite the report, and I think that was important for record keeping, even though we, still didn't adopt staff findings, but thank you.
Thank you, Ann, for saying thank you. I mean, it's so true. We jump up, we ask this, that, and we get it, and sometimes it falls through the cracks, our appreciation. So I appreciate that. And that's what I was just going to say, that, we're working a little short-handed here. So I appreciate everybody putting this first and your families and stuff second. I know we had some sickness and stuff the past couple of meetings and you guys made it, or appointments at work and you was asked to be excused so you could attend this. And I also want to, you got Ann Fullerton and a newbie with us doing a nice job speaking up and participating. I appreciate that. And Catherine, you're doing an outstanding job clerking. Your little background, I'm sure, helps you out a little bit. You're very astute and you're a reader and it shows. Thank you very much. So to Miss Cooper back there and Charlotte, you girls were great tonight. Thank you so much. And pass the word along to Sarah White that we appreciate. As Ian said, the new report and everything was great. Thank you so much, everybody. We can't do what we do if you don't support us and give us the right information. So thank you. And if there's no other comments of business, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Ann Brockelman. All in favor? Ann Fullerton,
Aye.
Ann Brockelman,
Aye.
Catherine Garavaglia,
Aye.
and Susan Fontano. Aye. Thank you, ladies. Good luck. I hope everybody's families are getting bigger and better and stronger. And Catherine, how are you doing? You didn't answer my email today. How's your little kitty?
Are
Do
we
I
still
dare
in the public record?
We're still in the public record.
We're on. What? Charlotte?